Hello and welcome to Fantasy Wildcard Dynasty. I'll be your host this week, Matt. You can follow me on Twitter at MattFFDynasty. Now, sadly, no Ali this week, but need not worry. We've got the two best Fantasy Wildcard hosts. I'm joined by Kev. You can follow on Twitter at Dynasty_Go. Kev, how you doing?
Very good, Matt. Thank you for welcoming me and saying nice things about me already and giving Ali a bit of grief. It's a shame he's not here. I think he's on a mini golf in Paphos. I doubt he'll beat the score I put there when I'm about 15 years old. But yeah, it's great to be on the show with you tonight. We've had a smashing weekend. Football's back, obviously. Fantasy-wise, a bit up and down, but the main thing is football's back. We'll worry about fantasy in a couple of weeks' time. Just really excited to talk about the key guys that stood out to us from this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Usually I'd be a little bit jealous that Ali's on holiday, but we got to watch football, so I think it was a real winner here. I think we are. So yeah, like you say, it's great that football's finally back. We've waited all this time, and yeah, it's finally back. Came back with there was let's just say it wasn't the most great week, should we say, in terms of injuries and players underperforming. But as I say, there's two key injuries I think that stick out. So before we start with the show, we might as well talk about those. And I think the big one, Dak Prescott, obviously the injury that he's sustained looked like he's out for 4 or 5, maybe even 6 weeks. Yeah, how do you feel about this, Kev? What implications do you think this has in terms of Dynasty?
Yeah, I mean, Dak Prescott, if you're playing in a lot of leagues, you're going to have him in some leagues. I think initially it was talking maybe 6 to 8 weeks, but it does sound like it might be closer to 4. Russell Wilson had a similar injury last year and we missed 4 games. Well, missed 3 games and he had a bye week, so missed 4 weeks. Something similar, I would imagine here.
Yeah.
I think wide receiver wise, going to struggle. I'd be worried if I had CD Lamb and I'm on a contender. I don't think it would be as bad for Dalton Schultz. I think whichever QB comes in, Cooper Rush, or if they trade for someone, I don't think it's going to affect Schultz that much. I think the problem you've got in Dynasty is if you're a contending team with Dak, what do you do? Do you spend capital? Do you try and be tight and get by with a Cooper Rush max bid on waivers? Rebuild, I think it's easier though. I think if you're in a rebuild, you're happy that you've got Dak in a way because you don't want to score points, you want to lose games, you want to get closer to the 101. So rebuilds, it's easier to navigate than if you've got a sort of contending team. What's your strategy with Dak if you have got him on a contending team?
Yeah, I think it's tough. Obviously, it all depends on what you've got in terms of your league, what kind of capital you've got, if you are able to offer some picks out, depending on the rosters that you've got. But yeah, a little bit like yourself, it all depends really on what other teams have got. If you're contending, you've got that Prescott, obviously you're hitting the panic button already. I know I've got him in a few leagues, got him in a few charity leagues as well, which is even more painful because I can't really do much about that. But yeah, in Dynasty, I think you've got to do something. If you're contending and you've got Dak Prescott, he's likely QB1. So yeah, I think you've got to look at some way of making a pivot. It's going to be tough trusting Cooper Rush as your QB, but I guess needs must. At least that's another quarterback on your roster. But yeah, I would be looking and seeing if you can acquire maybe one of these cheaper guys. As I say, if you've got a few seconds, then I'm sure you could go on offer a second for Trubisky and Mariota that can maybe see you through just for a few weeks until Dak's back. I think the interesting thing with Dak is the rumours are that they're not going to put him on IR, so that's kind of hinting that it's maybe not mega serious, like you said, 4 weeks, kind of similar to what somebody like Drew Brees had. I believe in that way as well. He can continue to participate in practice as well, which is obviously going to be good for Dak, and he should be back straight to 100% once his thumb sorted. So yeah, really interesting with Dak. But then
I think as well, just on that, sorry, Matt,
go for it.
I think as well, like if you're in the off season, if you're keeping an eye on your teams and sort of knowing where they're at, and you're realistic with that, if you're a contending team, you should really have 3 quarterbacks that can stand out and play for you. So you'd like to think that you have got a third QB that can maybe keep you going. And it's kind of lucky with it happening week 1 because there's no bye weeks till week 6.
Yeah.
Let's say you've got a Jared Goff as your QB3 and his bye weeks in week 6, then you're kind of hoping that gets back pretty quick. Otherwise, you're going to be playing a week with one less super flex QB.
Absolutely. And as I said, with that, there was another injury, Elijah Mitchell, going down for the 49ers again. Kev, what's your feeling on this? I know this is tough for me and Kev because we're in a league together and we've got both of these guys. So this is I mean, it's not the start you really want, is it? Week 1 into the new season. But yeah, Elijah Mitchell, Kev, what's your feelings on this injury and his dynasty implications? Because I feel like this could be potentially a big one.
I mean, with Elijah Mitchell, I think we've all been lower on him than the most this off-season. I think we were all correctly called him as a potential breakout as a rookie, and we all had a nice little victory lap at him dominating Dre Sermon and having a great season. But then this off-season, our advice has been sort of he's a ticking time bomb with the late round draft capital, and he did awesome last year, but we've seen the 49ers, there's no guarantee that you keep your starting job no matter who you are as such. I put a tweet out several months back about when people are laughing at you for Michael Carter, saying people are taking jabs at you, Matt, but these are the same people that hold in Elijah Mitchell and don't see any trouble. So it is a little bit, it's kind of saved him a little bit in the sense that Elijah Mitchell's going to be, he's not going to be on the in the starting lineups, but you're going to have to hold him. You can't trade him away now. His value's gone even further down. I'd be, again, it's a similar thing to Dak, and if you're a contending team, you worry, and if you're a rebuilding team, why have you got him anyway?
Yeah, Joe. I think it's a really interesting one with Mitchell because, like I said, Kev, we've never been super on him in terms of this off season anyway, and now with the injury and as you say with the 49ers, if they're putting in someone like Tyron Davis-Price, a guy that they've drafted this year in the 3rd round, if he comes on and takes over that role, how easy is it going to be for Mitchell to claim it back? Like you said, if he does come on or whoever it is that starts at running back, if they impress, I find it hard to believe that Mitchell's just going to waltz straight back into the starting lineup. Obviously, 8 weeks, it's looking like he's going to be missing. So, in terms of dynasty, you're going to be struggling now for the large part of this season. You mentioned about not trading him. I'd kind of be on that wavelength, thinking maybe I would even still trade him now, even though you say his value has dropped in, and obviously has dropped with the injury. But I think now with it being so immediate, people are still going to think that he was the lead back for the 49ers. Potentially, maybe they think he's that lead guy. So if there's somebody there in your league that feels that way and is willing to sit and wait on him, then I think it's worth at least entertaining the idea of trading him away. Obviously, depending on what you can get, it all varies league to league.
Can you tell? I hope our league's listening to this.
This is me just doing a really hard sell on.
I think the question you've got with Mitchell is last year he got an injury and he came back and took his starting job straight away, all the touches. Will he do the same this year? They added TDP, Jordan Mason. Will he get that job back? You'd like to think so, but they're just a strange team. That they're rostered 5 running backs. That should tell you what you need to know about. There's not going to be a guy getting all the touches, in my opinion.
I think it's going to be a headache moving forward with Mitchell not there, and even when he comes back, it's going to be interesting, shall we say?
But it's really good, and you need to trade for Mitchell in that league if you're listening.
Absolutely. But with that, Kev, we'll crack on with today's show. We're obviously going to be reviewing week 1 of the NFL season, highlighting players that we think stood out, and then obviously discussing maybe a few little trades and establishing where we think their dynasty value currently sits. So, Kev, with that, who's the first player we're going to talk about?
I mean, we have to start on this guy. You know that I've got OCD and I like to pick them in order of when they're played. And it's Thursday Night Football, a season opener. There's a couple of guys from that game that actually we could have spoke about as standing out as for good and bad reasons. Josh Allen, Gabriel Davis, Diggs was awesome as well. Cooper Kupp, Allen Robinson for bad reasons, but it's Cam Akers that we're going to discuss. who else could we talk about? Twitter on Friday morning was unbelievable. Victory lapping in week 1, talking about injuries and stuff. It was just incredible. And his value absolutely tanked after Thursday night football. It dropped to running back 42 on Keep Trade Cut, which, if you think back to maybe just over a year ago, before the injury, it was top 8 running back in Dynasty. Yep. So we're pretty high on AKERS as a trio, I guess. So we're not going to be at running back 42, no doubt. When you look at the box score, you see 3 carries for 0 yards, but as you correctly pointed out on one of your tweets, there was a backwards pass by Matt Stafford, which counts as a rush, and he caught it about 10 yards behind the line. It was literally like plus. So it looks off in the box score, but if it was 3 rushes for 12 yards or 10 yards, it's a lot better than 3 rushes for no yards. And then you couple that in with Darrell Henderson. He got 13 carries, he got 5 receptions, so he saw bulk of the work when the Rams were getting behind. Is it game script? Is it because Henderson shines in the pass game and maybe AKERS hasn't had much practice in the pass game recently? It could be that. It could be the fact that AKERS maybe dodged a few blocks trying to protect Stafford. Probably after that stupid pass that he gave me, thought, well, you've put me in a bad position. I'm gonna let you have taken it. But I just find it really difficult to overreact that much on one game. Week 2 against the Falcons at home, that's going to be a big indication that should be a favourable game script for the running backs. So yeah, if it's the same again and Henderson's getting the majority of the touches, then it's time to worry and panic, and then you can potentially look at moving him down, and it might be that you do start considering Henderson the running back 1 on that team. But this is a guy that he hasn't ever been a bell cow as such. He started most of the games last season and got less than 150 carries on the year. I think he is a great complementary piece, but if they give it to Henderson as the lead guy over AKERS, that's not going to last too long at all. So, yeah, and then just thinking back to last year, the playoffs, AKERS was the main man coming off an injury. He started in the Super Bowl. So, and this is a guy that they took in round 2 after taking Henderson the year before in round 3. So it'd just be strange for them to really push AKERS towards the end of last season when it mattered, and then change their mind for no reason, or for a small reason potentially. So I'm still in an AKERS. I think I'm the highest out of me, you and Ali. I'm not going to jump ship yet, but if it's a bad week against the Falcons, then I'll be getting a little bit more worried.
Yeah, to be honest, Kev, I think I'm like yourself. I'm not going to massively overreact. Obviously, it's not great seeing a guy that, I mean, where was he going in terms of Dynasty startups this year? Obviously, we know his value has slipped a little bit, but nowhere near what it's fallen to now in terms of RB42. Actually, when I looked at a Keep Trade Cut to see where he was ranked, I was shocked that it was as low as that. And I'm sure we're going to talk about a few trades, but it is going to be lower than all these guys that I'm going to mention, which is an absolute shock to me. But yeah, a little bit like you said, Kev. I think week 1, I believe both of these guys were struggling with injuries before this game, so maybe it could just be a case that AKERS maybe just wasn't as far on as what Henderson was. Like you said, I think both of these guys have impressed when on the field. It was a shame that Cam Akers never really got that much opportunity, but yeah, I tweeted out that video. I believe the lateral were like 12 yards behind line of scrimmage, and he managed to make a guy miss, drag a couple of guys towards the line of scrimmage. So I think that was an impressive play. It's just a shame that we didn't really get to see too much from Cam Akers. But as you said, I think next week's going to be the one where I'm really going to start taking some serious notes. If it's a similar situation next week, then the alarm bells are definitely going to start ringing. But as of now, I'm not mega worried. And I think you made a great point, Kev, about last season and the fact that he was coming off such a tough injury, the fact that they then instantly made him the lead guy for the playoffs, and as you're saying, such important games. I think that speaks a lot. Obviously, we know this is the same coaching staff, the same offense. Everything's still pretty much the same over there with the Rams. So you'd feel like, why would they do that if they weren't high on this guy? So yeah, I'm still not fading like as much as what everyone else seems to be in terms of his rankings. I am slightly concerned with that usage, but as I say, there was just a few things I think leading up to the game and during the game that maybe it's not time to overreact just yet. So with that, Kev, now we're gonna throw 3 hypothetical trades at you and put you on the spot, and let's gauge roughly where his value is. Like you mentioned, you're probably the highest out of all of us, so it's going to be interesting to see what you think. But first up, we've got Cam Akers or Chase Edmonds.
I mean, you're getting me to break your heart here.
I know, starting with 2 guys that I love, so you can't really go wrong, Kev, because I love them both. So
yeah, I mean, Chase Edmonds, we do all like him. I mean, me and Ali like him. You love him.
There we go. Yeah.
I mean, Chase Edmonds he's got 26 years old. He's lead back for the Dolphins this year. Probably at worst a big piece of committee next year. Cam Akers is a bit of an unknown, but I'm going to stick with Cam Akers just on the fact that he's younger. I still believe he has got bell cow potential. I think he's got it. I still think he's got top 10 ceiling in his range of outcomes. He's got falling off cliff in his range of outcomes as well. But I think just based on what the Rams did towards the end of last season and it being week 1, I'll take the proven talent in Cam Akers on that one. But it was tough.
I like it. I think it depends on if you're contending. You're probably leaning maybe a little bit more toward Edmonds for this year, but anything apart from that, I think, yeah, I'm with you. I'll probably go with Akers. So second trade, Cam Akers or everyone's flavour of the off-season, James Cook. Which one are you going for here, Kev?
Yeah, pretty easy for me on this one. It's Cam Akers again. James Cook, he's in a great offense. When I'm saying situation first thing, that should probably tell you a little bit about him as a prospect. That if it was James Cook on, I don't know, Washington or something, then yeah, it wouldn't be. It'd be a lot easier. But yeah, Cam Akers again. James Cook, I think he will be a great complementary piece, but Cam Akers has potential to be a 3-down guy again.
Love it and agreed. Third trade, Kev. This one, I thought I'd get a little bit spicy with this one. Cam Akers or his fellow running back, Darrell Henderson.
See, I do like Darrell Henderson. He's my first round pick when I started Dynasty.
Okay.
So I have got a bit of affinity to him, and I've got him in a lot of leagues, and I was very happy last year. And I wouldn't be surprised if he had a decent year. If this became a split backfield, I can see that potentially happening. But again, week 1, Cam Akers is the pick. If it was next week, you ask me, it might be a different answer. But yeah, I'm not flipping Akers for Henderson, but I'm sure that people will have tried that trade this week. So
clean sweep on Akers. Maybe I wasn't quite as spicy as I thought. I thought I might have you thinking there, Kev, but no, clean sweep on Akers. And interesting. Yeah, Chase Edmonds, I nearly got you on that one. But I think the interesting thing there is all those 3 guys that were listed are all above Cam Akers in Keep Trade Cut and their rankings. So maybe if you've got a league mate that lives by these Keep Trade Cut rankings, then maybe you've got an opportunity to move off one of these guys and grab yourself Cam Akers.
And he's running back 42. If that's true in your leagues, you can probably get him for a second.
Yeah, it's crazy. I can't believe how much his value is sunk, to be honest. But with that, we'll move on to another running back whose value did kind of sink during the off season. In fact, it looked like the Titanic at one point and was rock bottom. So yeah, really interesting, but came back with a really impressive game. And it's obviously Antonio Gibson that we're going to talk about for the Washington Commanders. Yeah, as I say, this was a big shock to me, Kev. We've gone through all the off season. Antonio Gibson, his values crept down and down and down and down and down. Obviously, we got a little bit of luck, should you say, with Brian Robinson getting that
shot.
But yeah, getting shot. I tried to play it down as something not as severe as that, but yeah, getting shot and obviously missing some time. I thought, yeah, obviously that's great. Antonio Gibson, you think he's going to take up that lead running back role that he had last year, and obviously McKissick being that receiving back. But I was completely shocked by what happened. 14 carries for 58 yards, which obviously that's kind of about what you were going to expect going into this week. But it was the receptions that really shocked me. 8 targets, 7 receptions for 72 yards. That's a career high in terms of targets for Antonio Gibson. Where did this come from, Kev? I mean, as I say, I was absolutely blown away by this. I'm gutted because I sat Antonio Gibson in pretty much every league that I had him, because I was just concerned that the matchup wasn't super exciting. And as I say, with McKissick there, I was worried about those receptions. But 22.9% target share, which again is unheard of. 51% route participation. So really getting used in that receiving game. Seeing some looks in the 2-minute drill on third downs. Yeah, it was a complete shock to me. A happy surprise, to be honest, that he was using this way. Keep trade cut, looking at his ranking, currently RB 29. I don't know what to say, Kev. I don't know what's going on here with Antonio Gibson. I mean, I've been trying to defend him for as long as possible during the offseason. I was starting to waiver as Robinson was starting to look like being that league, well, the guy that was going to take some goal line touches from Gibson and some of that rushing work. But now he's come out and put up 8 targets, 7 receptions. It's crazy. It's something that I hope carries on. JD McKissick still got some looks in the receiving game. So is this now the new norm, Kev, for Antonio Gibson? I know I'm certainly hoping so. But yeah, what's your feelings on what happened week 1?
I mean, with the pass game work, I'm a little bit shocked in the sense that he had way more receptions than McKissick, who was active, and we've not really seen that before. We've seen McKissick being sort of a siphon to his work. But if you remember to the pre-season, he did flash a few receptions deep down the field actually as well. So,
and let's not forget he was a wide receiver in college. Yeah. I mean, this should have happened from day one, Kev. This is what annoys me. The fact that we've had to wait so long for him to finally be used in the receiving game is what's annoyed me. And now it's the fact that I wasn't expecting it, and now it's happened.
Yeah, I just think, I wonder if Ron Rivera's just been playing a game with us, because Gibson, first couple of seasons, he was like top 13 running back both seasons, moving from wide receiver to running back. I mean, can you think of any running back in history where they've been top 13 first 2 seasons, then discarded for a 3rd round 28-year-old plodding rookie? I've always been hopeful on Gibson. I think the market's overreacted to fumbles. Fumbles could be an issue, but the guy's super talented.
Yeah.
Juicy matchup again this week. I can't remember who they've got. Oh, it's the Lions. So they conceded 4 rushing touchdowns to the Eagles. Go Eagles! Had to get that one in. But so I can see this continuing. There's Robinson coming back. Week 5? What your Gibson haters will be saying is it's an easy matchup against the Jags. It turned out to be in the end. You've got Robinson coming back, so the haters will be saying now's your time to sell. But I completely disagree. I don't think that's the case at all. I think Gibson's been super talented. He's showed free down potential, and if this offense is going to be decent, we went to looks pretty good for fantasy, throwing it around, making mistakes, but giving you plenty of opportunities. And I'm very happy with Gibson moving forward. So, a couple of trades for you, Matt. See if I can get you thinking on the spot. So, first one is Gibson and a 23 second, or Kenneth Walker and a 23 third. Who have you got?
This is probably going to be the toughest one, I think, because I have got Walker a bit above Gibson, but the fact that there's that second and third trade-off is, I think I am going to go with Gibson and that second. Like you said, I think the potential upside there with Gibson, we know, well, we've seen it this past week, the fact that he's getting used in that receiving game. Maybe when Robinson comes back, if he just can at least carry on that receiving work and maybe take over a little bit more from McKissick, then I think you've got that receiving upside. Whereas Kenneth Walker's kind of a little bit unknown in the receiving game. I don't think he's as bad as what everyone's making out him to be. I think he can be used in the receiving game. But I think Antonio Gibson's got that little bit more upside. So if he can maintain a healthy role in this offense, and the fact that you're getting that trade up from a third to a second, yeah, I'm going to go with the GIBSON side on this one.
Good stuff. Trade number 2, GIBSON or week 1 darling, Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Yeah, I think this is a slightly more easy, Kev. I'm going to go with GIBSON again on this one. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, we spoke about him before. You're super low on Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I have a little bit of hope from him. It was good to see him use a little bit more at the goal line this past week, after those 2 receptions, for 2 touchdowns, receiving touchdowns, used at the goal line. That was obviously a positive, but I am still worried that he's just not the guy. I just don't think he's the guy. So the fact that GIBSON, who I think is going to see more receiving work than what Clyde Edwards-Helaire has anyway, yeah, again, I think the upside with GIBSON, I'm leaning that way. And
then your last one is GIBSON or Elijah Mitchell. This is specifically in a rebuild because Mitchell's gone down injured now.
Yeah. Again, I think still GIBSON, again, that upside. I mentioned a little bit when we spoke about Elijah Mitchell and that injury. I'm concerned that he's not got that job guaranteed when he comes back from his injury. So there's a lot of risk there with Mitchell, and I just feel GIBSON, while there is risk there, that upside again, I'm favouring GIBSON.
It's funny, isn't it? Because on both of the first 2 running backs, the people we've put forward are all higher in the market as such, and we've still stuck to as guns, which I wouldn't say it's take back. I'd just say it's confidence.
I hope not. No, I think, yeah, definitely. I think it's confidence. I think both of these guys can bounce back. So, yeah, with that, we're going to move on to the next guy, Kev. Moving away from the running backs for a little bit and onto a wide receiver.
Yeah, I don't really like talking about this guy, but guys that stand out, this was one of them. And I felt right to bring him up. It was good timing with everything going on. So I've gone for Michael Pittman. He had an amazing game this weekend against the Texans. If you look at the box score, 9 receptions, 121 yards, 1 touchdown. This was in 5 quarters of play. So not to get too crazy on it with the overtime tie that they had. It's wide receiver 6 on the week. So I'll reel off the top 6 wide receivers. There was Jefferson, there was Cook, there was Michael Pittman, Devontae Adams, Jamar Chase, Stephon Diggs. Out of those 6, one of them is not like the others, and it's Michael Pittman. But when you look at the market, wide receiver 9 at keep trade cut, personally, I think that's mental. I think there is potential for him to rise in value from where I've got him in my rankings, which is about wide receiver 16. But not at this stage. I think a lot of it's to do with his situation, the fact that he's the alpha. If anyone's listening, he'll be fuming at that. But and there's not a lot behind him, so I can see him having a great season, just based on being the main man. Hopefully, Paris Campbell can get involved a little bit more. That would be nice to see him actually take a step again. Our good friend Mags, he put a poll out last week about who would you rather have, Michael Pittman or a 23 first. Now, the results of the poll were people would prefer Michael Pittman to a random 23 first. Remember, this could be the 101, it could be Bijan. People would prefer Michael Pittman to 23 first. I wasn't on that. On that, I prefer 23 first to random, just because what you could win is unreal. Now, I know teams that are trading for wide receivers with the first, you're probably thinking, yeah, they're contenders, it's going to be a late pick. Yeah. But you never know. You could have a week like we did with Dak and Elijah Mitchell and turn a contending team into something you might want to rebuild. Hint though, if you're looking to rebuild, make sure you've got your own 23 first. Just stick that in there. If you haven't, then you're making somebody else's life a lot easier, a lot better. Yeah. But back to Pittman, yeah, I just think where he's at, I'm not quite there in terms of player. I don't see the ceiling. I think he can be a really solid wide receiver in Dynasty, but I can't see him ever breaking that top 5 or 6. So if I can move off him now, or potentially move off him later in the season for a 23 first, I would do that, because there'll be a point in time where he'll have done enough for your team. The 23 first will keep rising in value. There'll be a point where that becomes a 50-50 at the market. And you know that the 23 first is only going one way. which is up. It's going to keep going up and up. So, yeah, Michael Pittman really stood out for me. Did a cracking week, but I will be cautious moving forward.
Yeah, like I say, it was a cracking week. And to be honest, I'd say it was an unexpected cracking week. The fact that they were facing the Texans, I thought this was a Jonathan Taylor absolute demolition job. And while he did that, it still ended up being a close game. And as you say, 5 quarters were played. Pittman, that usage, I wasn't expecting to see that amount of targets just purely because I thought it was going to be such a positive game script, well, a negative game script in the fact that the Colts were going to get up early and just hold the lead, but didn't play out that way. And in turn, Pittman got used far more than I expected. 9 targets, 121 yards and a touchdown. It's funny when you talk about the terms of his value, because I feel like I'm higher than you are on Pittman, but then on the flip side of that wide receiver 9 ranking at Keep Trade Cut feels high. So I don't know. I must be somewhere in the middle, somewhere between what you are in terms of ranking him and what he is in terms of
12. We'll say 12.
I think that is roughly about where I've got him, 12 or 13 in my rankings. So, yeah, it's a really interesting point as well that you made about the first and Pittman. I feel like Pittman, as I say, this feels like maybe peak value for Pittman, whereas that first, it's going to gain value. And by the time we get around to draft season, after this season, it's that first going to get you a lot, and I mean a lot. And if Pittman doesn't carry on being as dominant as he showed week 1, I feel like his value is only going to slide. So, yeah, I'm personally with you, Kevin, in terms of that trade. I'm siding with the 23 first, but I do understand if you're contending, you probably want that piece so that's going to get you points this year. But yeah, we'll move on to the 3 trades, because I think it's going to be interesting now, given the fact that we've got a little bit of discrepancy in our rankings and Keep Trade Cut's rankings. So we'll start with one that I feel like I'm pretty confident in what you're going to say with this one, but Pittman or T. Higgins?
Yeah, this one was super easy. T. Higgins is in my top 6 in Dynasty rankings. So, yeah, no doubt about that. If it was Michael Pittman and, I don't know, maybe a second, I'd still take T. Higgins.
Yeah. Nice. I like it. It's funny, though. Keep Trade Cut there, neck and neck. T. Higgins, receiver 8. Next one, Pittman or Tyreek Hill?
See, this is really tough because Tyreek Hill's going one way. He's in an offense that I don't think Tua can support 2 wide receiver 1s for fantasy. I've said my piece about Pittman, so this is a really difficult one. I'm probably just going to lean Pittman based on I see his value going up, I see Hill's going down, and they're probably going to finish this season with similar numbers, just based on Pittman having no competition and Tyreek having wobblers is.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Obviously, Pittman, the younger guy, but I feel like Tyreek Hill, we know the explosiveness. You could maybe argue that he's got that upside that Pittman doesn't have. So, yeah, I thought that was an interesting one, but couldn't quite sway you away from Pittman. So, third one, I'll switch it up a little bit. I'm getting away from just naming another wide receiver. So, Pittman or AJ Dillon and a 23 third.
See, you know that I love AJ Dillon.
I do.
You know I love him. So this is really tough. And it might be a shock answer, but I am going to take Michael Pittman here at this stage. I think Dillon, by the end of the season, I think it could change because his week 1 usage was really good. I think he has got 3 down potential. If something happened to Aaron Jones, then I've lost the trade because his value is going to be mental. But yeah, I'll take Pittman with a view to trading it back and getting Dillon towards the end of the season.
Okay, nice. So 2 Pittmans, and I got away from Pittman and got a T. Higgins there. So
played nice.
Yeah, very good. So with that, we're going to now move on to the second wide receiver. And Kev, we couldn't have a week 1 like we had, and me not talk about this guy. It's obviously Christian Kirk, the guy that I've been banging the drum for. He is my fantasy wildcard selection for this year. So the fact that he came out week 1 and was used in the way that I've been hoping and praying for. Obviously, we know the Jags paid Christian Kirk a huge amount of money. Some people would say too much. I disagree. I think he's well worth it. And he started showing and returning some of that investment this past week. 12 targets, 6 receptions, 117 yards. Clearly, the number 1 target for Trevor Lawrence. It was great to see him immediately go to Christian Kirk and him filling in and being that wide receiver 1 instantly. A key stat that really stood out to me is his slot snap percentage, 84.8. Now, if you know me and what I've been talking about on Fantasy Wildcard, that is the position I've been crying out for Christian Kirk to be used in. When he was with the Cardinals, we finally got to see it last season, and that's when Kirk finally had that, I call it a breakout, what he had last year, but didn't quite hit the heights that maybe I was hoping for. But I feel like now this year with the Jags being that wide receiver one, being used in the way that he should be used, yeah, I'm feeling. Can you sense it in my tone of voice, Kev? I'm feeling confident about my wildcard section. I'm feeling good. This is a team that they're going to be chasing the game, I think, a lot. We've seen with the Jags last year as well. The defense, while it is improving, it's still not there. And obviously Trevor Lawrence as well, still showing some signs of, you'd say, inexperience, would you say, maybe? Just some questionable decisions, but I still feel like he's the package. He's gonna be that guy that we all hoped, and with Kirk as his wide receiver one, yeah, I'm super excited, Kev. Keep Trade Cook got him wide receiver 40 at the moment. I'll hold my hands up. I've still been trying to get Christian Kirk in some leagues after this past week. In whatever leagues I don't have him, I've still been trying to throw out a few offers, maybe getting some feelers, hoping that somebody's hoping to sell high, should we say. The fact that he had that strong week one, maybe they're not confident on Kirk. I'm confident, Kev. I'm very confident, and I'm excited for Christian Kirk this year. So, Kev, anything else to add? Maybe try and calm the waters a little bit, because I'm whipping up a storm here.
I'm definitely not calming these stormy waters of Christian Kirk. I made a trade for him. I think might have been Thursday last week actually. Sent Hunter Renfro for Christian Kirk, just a straight swap. I had Trevor Lawrence on my team. I thought, let's stack it up. Let's get a guy that the market has lower than it should, because the signs are pointing in the right direction for him. It's great that he's come in and he got 12 targets in the first game. Trevor Lawrence is going to continue to grow, I feel, as well. I think he left a lot on the field, and the more he improves, it's only going to be even more beneficial for Christian Kirk. So, really pleased for you, because you've been on him for a few years. I'm getting there. I'm there. I'm definitely there. I've been acquiring more and more of him, but a little bit late to the party on Christian Kirk.
Well, at least I had to deal with 3 years of pain, Kev, like I have. But yeah.
So yeah, I mentioned I traded for him. We'll move on to a couple of trades to get you thinking about your value. I think I know where this could go based on your love for him, but we'll see anyway. So trade one, Christian Kirk and a 23 second, or Drake London.
This would have been tough if it went for the second. I think that second, everyone knows if they've been following the Fantasy Wildcard for a while. I'm not super high on Drake London. Obviously, we know the opportunity he's got in Atlanta is going to be great for early production, but I've never been his biggest fan, and obviously being a big fan of Kirk. The fact that you're then getting that 23 second, I think that's what's swinging it for me. If it was straight up, I'd maybe be leaning towards Drake London, in Dynasty and that potential over there in Atlanta. But the fact that I'm getting, again, that 23 second in a class that looks to be strong in depth, I think those seconds are going to be more valuable than what people are maybe giving them credit for. I mean, we know the firsts are getting blown up, but I think even the seconds are going to be valuable. So, yeah, Kirk in the second for this one, I think.
I think that's fair. I think Drake London, the market's a lot higher than we are as a trio. So, and he had a pretty good week one, actually, did Drake London.
Yeah,
surprised me how well he did. So second one we've got is Christian Kirk or George Pickens.
Now this one is tough, Kev. This is actually really tough because, as you know, and yourself, we both love George Pickens. We were both really high on him pre-draft and post-draft as well. Stayed true to Pickens. So, yeah, this is tough because I feel like the upside for George Pickens is huge. With the Steelers, if they get a capable quarterback, obviously at the moment with Trubisky being there and it being his first year, we're not going to probably see too much from Pickens. But I think long term, I think the potential's incredible. And I'm going to maybe surprise you. I'm going to go for Pickens. I'm going to take Pickens over Christian Kirk.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised, but I'm not going to argue with you because I like him too. And then the last one we've got is Christian Kirk or Brandon Cooks.
Yeah, this one a bit easier. Christian Kirk for me, quite easy. Brandon Cooks, we mentioned him when Rich Cullen came on. Obviously, always undervalued in terms of Dynasty and always produces. But he is getting up there. Every year that we fade him, we're another year closer to him actually getting to that age where things start to slide away. So yeah, I'm going Christian Kirk, and feeling pretty confident about that one.
Solid.
Love it. I'm enjoying these trades, Kev. Getting us thinking. I'm liking it. So with that, we're going to now move back to the running back position, because this is a guy that we need to talk about, Kev. We really need to talk about this guy. So who are we speaking about next?
I mean, we had to bring up a guy from the Giants with them winning a game. Fun fact before we get onto the guy, because you'll probably all know who it is.
Well, I think we could say it's Saquon Barkley. We can say that, but go on, Kev. Give us your start.
Can't wait. No, this is a fun fact actually. Because we're on the Giants, I'll bring it up. Week 1, the Giants won. Mm-hmm. Your team. The Bucs won Ali's team. The Eagles won my team. It's the first time that all 3 teams have won since us 3 have been on the Fantasy Wildcard Dynasty.
And Ali couldn't even join us to celebrate. And no. I mean, it's mainly been my team that I believe that has been letting us down. I mean, Ali's got the Bucs, you've got the Eagles, who've been doing great. Yeah, it's mainly been my fault that we hadn't had this victory together. But yeah, interesting start.
So real life, Saquon Barkley, what an absolute beast. It was a trip down memory lane to see him back to his peak, really. Running back 1 on the week, 32.4 fantasy points. Usage was immense. He had 18 carries, 6 receptions, a touchdown. He also had a 2-point conversion, which most running backs wouldn't have made, but he basically was. He had a guy in his face in the backfield. He just shimmied him, dived forward, celebrated in the cornerback's face. It was amazing, actually. Just the usage again, 83% of overall snaps, 74% routes ran, which for a running back is truly amazing that he's being used like that, like he should, and a 40% target share. It was an amazing weekend for him, and obviously the market reacted, the people spoke, and he moved from running back 9 to running back 6, which people probably think 3 spots, it's not a lot, but when you get into the top of rankings and the values, it's a massive jump on one game. But I do think he is a buy high candidate, even with the rise in price, in value. Sorry, because I think with Saquon, we just want to see, is he back to his best? Can he perform in an offense with questionable O-line in the past, which seems to have got a little bit better? Can he perform with Daniel Jones again? So he's answered both those questions. Tennessee's no mugs. He's done it on the road. He ripped off that monster run, which was electric. Yeah, all in on Saquon Barkley, running back 6 at Keep Trade Cut. I've got to say that's pretty fair, to be honest. Yeah. Really stood out to me. Clearly stood out to you as well. So I'll quit gassing and let you have a bit of an exciting moment.
I mean, I ain't got much more to add, Kev. What a weekend for me. Finally, as we mentioned, the Giants finally winning, and really, what an incredible way to win as well. The fact that we went for those 2 points right at the end of the game. Brian Daboll carrying those big nuts and going for those 2 points. Yeah, I was absolutely bouncing around the house when that was happening. So, yeah, great to see the Giants win, and then the fact that Saquon Barkley was at the key part of that was just the icing on the cake for me. A guy that, I absolutely love Saquon Barkley. Even if he didn't play for the Giants, I'd absolutely love Saquon Barkley because he is such a unreal running back when healthy. When healthy, I stand by this, Kev. I've said it time and time again. I think he is the best running back in the NFL when healthy. It's just been the health. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey's also great. I'm not gonna stand too much on Christian McCaffrey, but yeah, the way that he was used, what we've hoped and expected, really, we know that he's great no matter if it's receiving the ball, running the ball. He's got it all. The Giants are finally starting to put together a decent O-line for him. Hopefully that can continue to improve, and we can maybe even see even more from Saquon Barkley. But yeah, what an unreal week 1. Thinking long term though, Dynasty, we've got to remember that this is a contract year for Saquon Barkley. Yeah. You've got to. I mean, I hope that the Giants re-sign him, but the fact that we have got so many question marks in terms of quarterback and other areas of the roster, and we know Barkley's going to want that money, especially if he keeps doing what he did week 1. So I think it's interesting looking forward to maybe next year, but I'm hopeful and pretty confident, to be honest, that we keep Saquon Barkley moving on. So yeah, Kev, going to throw some trade questions here. I thought I've got to mix up, pull at some heartstrings, go for some guys that are maybe higher in terms of keep trade cuts value. So starting with the first trade, Saquon Barkley or Najee Harris.
So yeah, if you asked me this last week, it would have been Najee. Not very comfortably, but comfortably. Week one, we're saying don't overreact, but I think it's a little bit different when it's to do with players come back from injury. We'll mention a guy on the next pick as well, but yeah, it's Saquon for me just because there's a year age gap in Harris and Barkley, with Harris being an older rookie prospect, and the upside. Saquon Barkley, he can finish RB1. I think Najee Harris will need 800 carries to manage that. Plus, he's banged up. That O-line doesn't look any better. The QB looks trash as well. So yeah, Saquon for me. But it would have been a different answer last week.
Love it.
Look at that smile.
Love it. Especially given the fact that Najee Harris, what's he, RB2, maybe 3 in keep trade cuts rankings. So yeah, I like that one, Kev. So next trade, Saquon Barkley, or this is the heartstring one, Austin Ekeler.
Yeah, this is tough. Obviously, if I've took him over Najee, I've probably got to take him over Ekeler as well, begrudgingly, because I do love Ekeler. I think the offense is amazing. I think Ekeler, with his role as a pass catching guy, is also fantastic. But I'll take the younger guy in Saquon that's shown that he's back to his best. He's had a couple of freak injuries in the past, so yeah, Saquon again.
Okay, now I've got this one, but it's just come to my mind. I feel like I want to ask a different one because I feel like I was going to ask you Devontae Parker, Devontae Adams. I feel like you're going to go Saquon because we love those running backs. Would you have gone with Barkley? I feel like
Saquon, yeah.
Yeah. So instead, Saquon Barkley or Christian McCaffrey.
That is tough.
I'm
going to go McCaffrey.
Okay.
I'm going to go McCaffrey because if they both hit, I give a slight edge to McCaffrey.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. Yeah, I would say it's a lot closer than. Well, it's interesting because both of these guys coming off obviously a tough couple of years with injuries, so you could probably label them both pretty similar in age, both using the receiving game. So yeah, I can understand why, but I don't think there's a great deal in it, and yeah, okay. I can accept it, Kev. I can accept it.
I need to move Najee down my rankings.
Yeah, I think that's the clear thing that we're working out here. But yeah, we'll move on to the next guy and the last guy that we're going to talk about, and it's Travis Etienne. Kev, one of your guys that you've been high on ever since he came into the NFL. Obviously, we missed his rookie year, and I think that has to be beared in mind. I don't think I've seen a lot of people on Twitter overreacting to what we saw from Travis Etienne. And maybe what his fellow running back did with the Jags. But we've got to bear in mind that this was actually his NFL debut. I think a lot of people forget that this was actually, he's like these rookies that have played. And if you compare him to the rookies that have played in terms of the running back position, he was just as good as what those guys did. So, yeah, I think that does need to be beared in mind. But 4 carries for 47 yards and then 4 targets, 2 receptions for 18 yards. I'll be honest, Kev, to start the game, I was getting excited about Travis Etienne, seeing Trevor Lawrence, looking at him in the receiving game. We know that connection we spoke about at length, what they've got together from the time at Clemson. I thought it all just fallen back into place, and that Etienne was going to be used as that receiving back, getting plenty of looks. And as I say, early on in the game, it looked that way. But as the game progressed, James Robinson seemed to get more and more involved. Then there was that unreal fumble by Travis Etienne where he got absolutely destroyed, basically. Yeah, got absolutely destroyed. Probably lucky that the ball went out of play. But yeah, now a lot of people may be overreacting to what we saw from Travis Etienne because of what James Robinson managed to do, scoring those two touchdowns, which is obviously great. The fact that he was coming back from such a tough injury. It was great to see him be able to produce on the NFL field. A guy that we've never really been super on, have Kevin in James Robinson. It was good to see him in use, but yeah, I think it now makes an interesting case. Is this going to be James Robinson being that lead running back, and then Etienne maybe used more in the receiving? I think that's what we all kind of expected. I think, as I say, people are maybe overreacting. No, I don't think anyone was saying that Travis Etienne was going to be the clear-cut RB1 and command all the touches. Maybe with Robinson coming back from injury, I thought he might get a little bit more involved early on. But with Robinson coming back, I think we all expected, at least for the first part anyway, while Etienne got used to the NFL, that it was going to be an RB1, RB A and B, should I say. So yeah, I'm not overreacting too much, Kev. Feel like you are probably not either. Keep trade cut RB11. Not really seen too much of a change in his dynasty ranking.
Yeah, I mean, with the touches he got, I actually think Etienne did all right. He ran a route in the red zone, in the end zone, which Lawrence overthrew him. That had been a touchdown, and then obviously later on, Robinson catches a touchdown pass from Trevor Lawrence. That's a dagger in the heart as such. And I thought Robinson was amazing. It was for him to come back week 1 and look like he did when he was a rookie was surprising. I think that he comfortably out-touched Etienne was also a shock. And I think there is right to have a little bit of concern because Etienne's ceiling has took a bit of a hit. But we are playing the long game. It's a one-off game. We don't know why he's not got as many touches. Is it the fumble? Sometimes that happens where you fumble and you get pulled or you get less work. But I'm not massively worried. I just feel that it was a shock more than anything. So that's why expectations have been tempered a little bit. So we'll get your thoughts on his on if you've been shocked a little bit as well. So trade 1, we've got Etienne and a 23 first or Javonte Williams and a 23 second.
It's always tough when you throw these picks in, Kev, because they seem to be the ones that do more swaying than the actual plays that we actually that we mentioned. I think the fact that you've got that 23 first, if we're saying it's a random first, we mentioned it earlier, that could be anything. That could be the 101 Bijan Robinson. If it is Bijan, then I'm taking him over Javonte Williams quite easy. And the fact that you then get Etienne, who has that upside, I think that's what's swaying it for me. And as well, we've mentioned about the depth of this 23 class. Even if it is a mid first, even pushing towards a back end of a first, I still don't think that's enough to sway me away from having Etienne over Javonte Williams. And I will admit, I absolutely love Javonte Williams, what he did last night against the Seahawks. The fact that he was used so much in the receiving game was really impressive. So I do really like Javonte Williams. But yeah, the fact that he's a first, moving up from a second to a first, Travis Etienne. Yeah, I'm gonna side with Etienne.
Good stuff. Trade 2, Etienne or DJ Moore?
This is a tough one.
It is.
Yeah, because I know that we all know the upside with DJ Moore. It's just we just can't seem to find it. I was hoping that Baker Mayfield could maybe eke something out of him, but actually DJ Moore had a really disappointing week 1. I do think long term I'm going to back the talent of DJ Moore. The fact that we've seen 1,000-yard season seems to be the norm. It's just we need those touchdowns, and I'm hoping. Obviously, it's only been 1 week, so I'm not going to overreact too much to Baker and DJ Moore's connection. So I'm going to side with the wide receiver and go DJ Moore for this one.
Yeah, I think I'm the same, but last week I would have took Etienne. I just think it's just dinged his ceiling a little bit for me, and we're very close anyway. And then the last one, a monster blockbuster trade. We've got Etienne, a 23 first and a 24 first, or Big JT.
I mean, I don't know, Kev. This is really tough to decide because obviously we know Jonathan Taylor, just an absolute beast, showing it this past week, carried on from what he did last year. We all love Jonathan Taylor on the Fantasy Wildcard Dynasty show. We're all huge fans of him. Like everyone is really. I mean, he is the Dynasty RB1. But the fact that you're throwing in 2 first-round picks and Travis Etienne as well, it's tough because I feel like I can't go against Jonathan Taylor just because we've seen what he can do, the unreal ceiling that he could. I mean, if he was used more in the receiving game, then it'd be a no-brainer. I feel like I can't go against him, but I am going to go against him. I'm going to take Etienne and the 2 first. I feel like what you could get from those first It's funny because whenever I say this, I always think of that Family Guy, is it, when he gets the mystery box. It could have been the mystery box, could have been anything. It could have been a speedboat when he's been offered the speedboat. I kind of feel like this. We were saying this 23 first. It could be Bijan Robinson. I mean, Bijan Robinson, he's got, if he becomes Jonathan Taylor, then you're absolutely laughing because you've got that extra first and Travis Etienne. But it's a big if, and you don't know if it's going to be. Oh, Kev, I don't know. Can I just pass on this one? I think this is really close. I'm sticking with Taylor. If I'm being offered the speedboat, I'm taking the speedboat. I'm not taking a chance. I'm getting the speedboat. Yeah, I'm sticking with Jonathan Taylor. What would you have gone there, Kev? Quickly.
I don't know.
Oh, that's no good to me. That's no good to me, Kev. And with that useful piece of information from Kev, we'll now move on to some actual useful information from Kev. We're going to go on to the Wildcard waiver pickups. So Dynasty waiver guys that we think you should be targeting this week. So Kev, who have you got?
Yeah, I mean, the idea of this is we're going to be talking deep, guys. Obviously, the audience is really clued up and smart because they're listening to this show. So we know that they'll be playing in competitive leagues and they'll have all the normal guys that will be available. But the guy I'm going to talk about is Avery Williams, who's a running back for the Falcons. Special teams ace. He plays gunner on punt coverage, kick and punt return. He was actually drafted as a cornerback last year and moved back to running back this offseason, which is a position he played in high school. Smaller guy, 195 pounds, no touches as a rookie, but he had 3 on Sunday, and that's 2 rushes and 1 reception. He is a different size skill set to the other backs on the Falcons roster. I just feel that if Cordero gets injured or does end up having more usage at wide receiver, which he talks about in the offseason, then I think Williams can be a change of pace guy, a pass catching guy. So, yeah, in deep leagues, I'm talking like 30-man rosters. I think he's someone that should be on your bench as opposed to, say, I don't know, an extra roster-clogging wide receiver.
Yeah, we know running backs can see that spike, can't they, in value if situations fall away. So, yeah, great pick. My pick, not going running back. I'm going with Kylan Granson, the tight end for the Colts. I mean, we know tight end, it's an absolute waste. I've just got to look at this past week. Komet, Smith, Kasicki, and Joku. None of them really did this week. It was absolute disgrace, to be honest, because they're guys that we've been around. But Grayson, his usage really opened my eyes. 7 targets, just 3 receptions, 22 yards. But we know this is a pretty weak wide receiver core behind Michael Pittman. His only real competition in terms of tight end is Mo Cox this year. Jelena Woods, we know he's got potential, but he's still pretty raw. Didn't see too much action this week. Just looking back to week 1, it was a 50 to 51 in terms of snaps between Mo Cox and Grayson. But Granson actually had 30 pass plays, whereas Mo Cox just the 20. Mo Cox saw 2 targets as well. But Granson used 42% in the slot, so we've seen some slot work, which we know there's players making a case for that slot role in Indy. So if Granson can get some use in the slot, we know that can then return value in terms of fantasy production. So yeah, I think in deep leagues, especially tight end premium leagues, I think it's someone you should be looking to pick up.
Yeah, I had him in a 2 tight end league. I ended up dropping him a couple of weeks back, so I'll be probably tucking my tail between my legs and putting in a claim for him again this week.
Yeah, absolutely. So that brings us to the end of the show, where we've obviously reviewed week 1 of the NFL season. Any final thoughts quickly, Kev?
Yeah, just don't overreact to injuries like I did on a couple of them. Don't overreact to injuries, but also don't overreact and look to trade guys and change opinions on guys unless they've been injured previously and they're showing that they are back to full strength, aka SAQUON. And the other thing is Fantasy Wildcard Rewind show, that's up and running now, so please do check that out. It's on our feed. They're doing an awesome job to begin the season. Great chemistry they've got. You have a laugh watching them.
Yeah, definitely agree about not overreacting to week 1, but yeah, as you say, the Fantasy Wildcard Rewind show, I've absolutely loved it. Obviously the first one and then this one this past week, yeah, the guys are absolutely killing it. Loved both of the episodes that they put out and looking forward to seeing what they can do for the rest of the year, rest of the season. But yeah, with that, thank you for tuning on. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Fantasy Wildcard. Subscribe to us on YouTube by searching Fantasy Wildcard Podcast Network, which now includes obviously our new brilliant Rewind show. If you can, please do leave us a 5-star podcast review as well. Helps us get a larger reach. And be sure to tune into us every Tuesday with the podcast, the stream dropping on Wednesday. And yeah, that's it. Week 1 in the books. Have a good one.